And welcome to the BYU Family History Library webinar. We're glad you could join us today. I'm Olivia Tuller, and I'll be your host for this webinar. If you have technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box and I can address your concerns. You are welcome to use the chat box during the webinar for comments, insights, and questions. However, all questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Our next webinar is on May 18th with Julia Anderson. She will be giving a presentation entitled Getting Started with African American Research. If you would like to access a previous webinar, please visit our webinar index on our website or search on our YouTube channel. All of our webinars are recorded and uploaded by the following Monday for your convenience. We also post links to recordings and other updates on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. For today's webinar, we are pleased to hear from Kathryn Grant, who will be giving a presentation on everything you wanted to know about navigating FamilySearch Family Tree. Before we begin, here's a little bit about Kathryn. After years on the sidelines, Kathryn began doing family history. Somewhat to her surprise, she discovered that she loved it. Her specialty is helping new family historians find success and maybe even avoid some of the mistakes she's made. Kathryn teaches Sunday classes at the BYU Family History Library and presents at other family history events. Her column on family history ran in the Nauvoo Times for about a year and is still available online. In addition, she's a regular contributor to the FamilySearch blog. Kathryn works as a technical writer and instructional designer with a focus on usability and process improvement. Her current work assignment includes developing training used on mobile devices. Besides family history, she loves uplifting music, thought-provoking books, and fresh raspberries. And we will now turn the time over to Kathryn if she's ready.
Great, Olivia, thank you so much. Let me share my screen here. Well, everybody, welcome to our webinar today. It is so good to have you with us. This is a little bit of a departure from the webinars that I usually do. It's kind of a fun one, and it's very, very practical. I was going to say that it might be shorter, but when I actually rehearsed it and timed myself, it didn't turn out to be that much shorter. So it just doesn't seem as content heavy. Anyway, I'm so happy for you to join us and hope that you will gain something helpful from this webinar today. A lot of the stuff you might already know, but there might be a few nuggets that may be helpful to you. And especially for those of you, I was looking over the list of participants. I know that many of you are responsible for helping other people learn to do family history. So hopefully some of these things will be helpful. Even if you already know them, they'll be helpful as you teach others. So all of us, when we get into family tree, it can be challenging to know how to get from one point to another, especially when we're starting out. And for those of us who have used Family Tree for a long time, I think it helps to remember what it was like when we first started. Do you remember how confusing it was when you very, very first got in? A lot of people, even if they've done family history for years, get in and go, wait, I know what I'm seeing, but I'm not sure how to get where I want to go. So we hope that today's webinar will help in that regard. Learning to get around in Family Tree can save you time, and that's huge with all the work that we all have to do, right? And not only that, when you feel comfortable navigating, it frees you to focus on actually doing family history, which is what we want to do, rather than worrying about, oh goodness, how do I get here? Or as I was helping a sister one night, seeing that it was so challenging for her because she was kind of taking the long way to get places, and it was like so many clicks to get to where she wanted to go. When you know the optimum way to navigate, then that frees you up so that you can focus on the things that really matter. So here's what we've got today on the agenda. First of all, we'll talk about the top level menus in Family Tree. Then we'll talk about navigating tree views, navigating two individual profiles, navigating on a profile page, and finally we'll give some tips and tricks for URLs or for the web address of the page that we're on. So using the top level menu. The top level menu appears on just about every page of FamilySearch.org. I have seen an occasional exception, but to be honest, I don't know if there are exceptions anymore. I just remember a few years ago, I navigated to some pages where this menu didn't appear, but about 99% of the time, it will be at the top of any FamilySearch page. And it's very well designed because it shows you the major sections of the FamilySearch.org website. This is a trick that a lot of people aren't aware of. If you click the logo, that actually takes you to the home page. The home page looks different depending on whether you're logged in or not, but that's a handy little trick if you need to get to the home page. Today's webinar, of course, focuses mostly on Family Tree, as you probably noticed from the title, but the other sections of the website are worth mentioning. So search is where you search for historical records. Those are where all the indexed records go. Memories is where your photos and stories and so forth are in your gallery. Get involved is where you can find activities to volunteer for. And activities are just fun things that you can do, say with a youth group or a family history society or something like that. Today, though, as I mentioned, we're going to focus on Family Tree. When you click any item in the top level menu, you will get a drop-down. When you click any item in the drop-down, notice that it takes you to that item, but it also displays a secondary menu with those almost always the same items on the secondary menu. But you probably notice here that Recents appears here, but it did not appear in the drop-down. The reason for that is that you have to be on a family tree page for Recents to make any sense. So they don't make it as an option that you can go to separately here, but once you've gotten to some type of family tree page, any of these options here, then this secondary menu will show and Recents will be part of it. So before we get into navigating in tree views and on profile pages, it's helpful to understand something about the way that Family Tree displays information about people. There are basically two types of displays. One is the tree view, which is multi-generational. So it shows less information about every individual, but it shows them organized into a pedigree. And then, of course, there's a person view, which takes you to a detailed page that's just about one person, but it gives you a lot of information about that person. So let's go ahead and talk about navigating in tree views. So in tree views, we now have 5 views. There used to just be 4, but relatively recently they've rolled out a new one. So landscape is the traditional view that kind of goes from left to right. Portrait is very similar, except it's flipped on its side and it goes top to bottom. Fan chart puts a person at the center of a set of concentric circles with the ancestors heading back in those concentric circles. Descendancy is actually one of the trickier views. We're not going to go into a lot of detail on that today. We're actually going to focus on navigation that's common between the views. But basically, descendancy, you pick a starting person and then it will show their spouse, indented, and then the kids indented even more spouses indented, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just a view of different levels that are displayed by indentation. And then finally, this is the new view, which is really exciting for anybody that's involved in Asian family history, because this is especially designed to display what they call Jaipu for, as I hope I'm saying that right. I've heard someone say it, so that should be close, but Jaipu clan genealogies. And basically, it's what they call patrilineal, which follows a male line in a family. So you can kind of see that this is slightly shaded yellow, and that is the patrilineal line. And then, of course, it will also show other family members. So if you have Asian heritage or you're helping someone who does, this could be a helpful chart for you. So how about navigating on these different charts? Well, in order to navigate, it's helpful to understand the concept of a root person. Every chart will have one. And basically, it just means that there is one person or couple to whom everything else in the chart is relative. So, for example, here we've got Joseph Aminadab Quabell and his wife Rebecca Newton as the root couple. Then their ancestors are displayed on one side and their descendants are displayed on the other side, but everybody is relative to this root couple. You can use arrows on almost any tree view, but not on fan chart, to expand branches. I did want to point out that you have to do it one at a time. So for instance, if I have clicked this top arrow and I expand out that descendancy branch, but then I come and click the next arrow to expand out this descendancy branch, it will automatically close this one. So you can't see, at least at present, you can't see multiple branches at the same time when you have expanded them in this way. One thing that I find is often unknown is that you can drag the tree, and this works for everything except ascendancy view, but you can drag all the other trees similar to the way that you would drag a map in Google Maps. So here's a little bit of a tricky thing. I tell people to put their cursor in the gray area. There are sometimes you can put your cursor over part of a person's name card or whatever you want to call this little thing. It's not really a card, I guess, tile. But sometimes you can drag from here, but sometimes you can't if you get on a link. So it's really just safer if you want to drag to reposition the chart, put your cursor on the gray area, then click, hold, and drag. Again, very similar to Google Maps. Here's the thing that can come in helpful if you're running into problems, especially trying to expand views, you're not seeing everybody you want to, you can actually change the root person. So here's an example of how you do that. Let's say that we want William and his wife Bridget to be in the root position instead of Bennett and Susan. So the way we would do that is we would first click on William's name, and that would bring up the summary card. Then on the summary card, we would click tree, and that would move William Bescaby and his wife into the root position. Just like this. Here's a little added cool thing on the fan chart. So on the fan chart, you can click people and bring up their summary card and go to the tree view as we just illustrated. But the fan chart has an additional way of putting a person in the root position. If you hover over a person, you're going to get this little gray, it's not really a bar, right? Because bars are straight, this little curved bar, I guess, with a fan icon in the middle of it. And if you click on this fan icon, it will move this person into the root position. As far as navigating between views in Family Tree, just click the menu in the upper right-hand corner and just switch to any tree view that you want. The cool thing about that is if you navigate away from that tree view, say to a person page, but then you come back, it remembers the view that you selected last time. So you won't, have it on fan chart, then navigate away and suddenly have it go back to landscape. No, it'll remember what you had chosen, which comes in really handy. Okay, that's it for navigating in tree views. Let's talk about navigating to individual profiles, because that's one of the most frequent things that we do in Family Tree. So there's actually a number of different ways to navigate to a profile. This might seem like a lot of information, but I think once we get into it, you'll grasp the principles of it, and then you'll be able to apply it both in these places and also in some other places that are less common that we're not going to talk about today. But when you get into them, you'll say, oh yeah, I see how I can apply the principles I've learned here. Click the name, bring up the summary card, etc. So speaking of summary card, let's get into that. This is absolute genius in my mind. Whoever designed this at Family Tree, it just makes it so easy both to see the information we want to see and to navigate to individual profiles. So just about any place that you see somebody's name in Family Tree, whether on Tree View or in the changelog or in the family members section of the profile page. Just about any place you can click a name and get the summary card. So the summary card is basically just a little pop-up that gives you a very brief overview of that person. You'll notice as you navigate through Family Tree that they currently have two styles of summary cards, a new one and an old one. They basically have the same information with a few little exceptions. As you can see here on the new one, they let you view relationship as they didn't used to on the old one. And let's see, what was the other? Following has moved. So you used to click the watch button here, the watch star. They changed the name to following. And then on the new card, the star is just down here at the bottom without a label. But other than that, it's essentially the same thing between the two cards. Or I should say two styles of cards. So as we were talking about tree views, we mentioned that if you bring up a summary card in tree view and then click tree, it moves that person and their spouse, if there is one, to the root position. But the cool thing is that this works from pretty much any other page in Family Tree. So suppose you are in the changelog and you want to view this some person in the changelog from in the tree view. Well, you would just click their summary card in the changelog, click tree, and it would take you to tree view with that person in the root position. Oh dear, I see something in a chat that somebody's having trouble with audio. Olivia, I don't know if you're able to help address that, but I'm assuming everybody else can hear. If you can't, please say so in the chat. But Peter, we'll do our best to get that problem solved for you. Oh, if he doesn't have audio, he couldn't hear me say that. I just realized. Oh my goodness. So let me just type a quick note here. Peter, we'll try and help you. Okay, Beth, you can hear me good. So Peter will try to help you. Okay. Oh, L. Irvine says, please define changelog. Thank you so much for mentioning that. So I don't have it on the screen right here, but when you go to somebody's profile page, over on the right-hand side, there will be a thing that says something like show latest changes or latest changes. It will have the 3 most recent changes. Then at the bottom of that little section on the right-hand side, there will be a link that says show all. When you click that link that says show all, it takes you into the changelog. And that's basically a list of all changes to that person since the person was either created in Family Tree or since they came over from the old system. The ones that came over from the old system, called ironically new.familysearch.org, those ones will have come over in 2012 and they will be stamped as with FamilySearch as the contributor. So thank you for that great question. And later on, if I have a screenshot that shows the changelog, I'll be happy to show that. Or if we have time at the end, I can actually go into Family Tree and show where the changelog is. So if somebody can help me remember that, that would be awesome. I find that sometimes after I get back into the webinar, then the question kind of falls out of my brain, out of my radar. And so I could use a reminder to do that at the end. So here we are back looking at the summary cards, and we've commented how if you click tree on any summary card from any place, it will put this person in the root position in your current tree view. As you might imagine, if you click person, that will take you to the person's profile page. But here's a cool little tip that I notice is not widely known, and that is that you can also click the name to go to the person's person page. And I'll be honest with you, I tend to click the name more than person, even though they do exactly the same thing, just because this is bigger and it's easier to aim for. So just know that both of those will work to get you to the person's profile profile page. And this is how it looks on the older summary card. I actually don't know how soon that older summary card will go away. So I just wanted to make you aware of it for the time being. Just know in the future it will go away and all of those will be replaced by this style. And here's another cool tip that I've noticed is not widely known, and that is that these buttons here are actually shortcuts to the particular tab of the profile page. So for example, imagine that you were on the tree view in the summary card and you knew that you wanted to go straight to sources. If you click the name, it will take you to the details page. And then you'd have to click again to get to sources. But if you click sources, it takes you straight to the sources tab, or collaborate straight to that tab, memories, same thing. So that's a cool little shortcut. Another tip that I wanted to share that seems to come in so handy when working in Family Tree is that it's possible to open up a new profile without closing the current page. Well, you might be saying, when on earth would I do that? A couple of examples are when you're reviewing a list of possible duplicates, or when you're doing a merge. Suppose that you got in and then you said, hey, wait a minute, something's not looking really good here on the merge screen. But you don't want to end the merge because it might be okay. You just want to check something out. And then if it checks out, continue the merge. So then you could bring up another profile page without closing the merge page. Another time I use it a lot is when I'm checking possible matches when adding a person. And I thought that would be a good one to illustrate it. So let's take a look at that. Here I have tried to add a child, John Baxter Adam. When I did that, it came up with a possible match and says, hey, this guy might already be in here. Well, from this screen, I can't really tell if he's a match because this guy was born and died in 1905, and this other guy with a date of 1906 could be a younger sibling that just got the same name after the older one died. So I don't want to get out of this screen because I might really want to create this person, but I do want to check this out. So how would I do that? I would click the name and that would display the summary card. Then I would actually right click the name on the summary card. You might be asking, why didn't you just right click this name? I have found that, at least for me, that doesn't work for what I'm going to show you. So I found that I do have to actually open up the summary card. Then I can right click on the name on the summary card and I get this context menu. This is Chrome, but other browsers will be similar. So once you've got your context menu up, then you look for one that says either new tab or new window, and you click that and it will open up this guy in a new tab or window without losing this screen that you're on. For those of you who love using keyboard shortcuts, another trick here is instead of right-clicking on the name, you can actually hold down the Control key and then just regular click, do a left click on it. I believe on the Mac, I've never tried this on a Mac, that the Command key will do the same thing. So I'm saying Control key because that's what I know, but I'll bet you anything the Command key will work here too, because I found in the past, usually when you click or when you press Control on a PC, the equivalent will be to do the Command key on a Mac. So this is what it will look like. So well, let me back up here. I lost my context a little bit. So when I choose to open this in a new tab, for instance, then the new tab will open and this is the page, the profile page for that John Baxter Adam that I want to check out. But the add screen is still on this one. Now, I've noticed that sometimes when I click this, actually frequently, when I do that right click thing or do the, what did I say, wait, let me get back there. When I do the control click thing, then it will open up this tab, but it won't go to it. So I'll be on this tab, but this tab will have opened and I'll actually have to click this to move to it. The thing is, it doesn't seem to be consistent. So I would just say, if you do that right click thing or the control click thing and you're on this page and you don't go over to this page, then most likely you're going to see that this tab opened and you would just need to click it to get to this tab. And then when you're done checking out whatever you need to here, you can just close this tab, go back to this one, and your ad screen will still be there. Okay, let's talk about using recents. This is also another one that has more features than are not commonly known. So the recents list will show you up to 50 recently viewed profiles. I say up to 50 because if somebody has just started using Family Tree and they haven't yet looked at 50 people, it will show whoever they've looked at, say 5 or 10 people. But then when it gets to 50 people, it will stop and it will just show you the most recently viewed 50 people, and the older ones will drop off the list. So the recents list has 3 navigation options. One is that you can click a person's name and go to their profile page. Another is that you can actually click the tree icon and go to that person in the root position in tree view. Then there's another cool thing, and this is the thing that is probably less widely known, is there's a filter box at the top. So you can actually type in all or part of a name or PID at the top. And notice on this one, I typed blank because I was looking for my Blankensop family. And when I did that, it filtered just to the people that matched something that I had typed. And you notice, or actually I should say, I in this particular instance, I did type the beginning of the name, but you actually wouldn't have to. You can type any text that appears any place in a name, and it will show you any matches for that text. So that is really cool. And then you can just click as usual and navigate either to the profile page or to the tree view. But here is another really cool thing, and that is that suppose you know the PID of someone, even if they're not in your recents list, you can still pull up recents, put in the PID, click go, and it will take you to that page again, regardless of if they show up on your recents list. So this is actually faster than using the find screen. A lot of us will use the find screen to go to a PID. I usually do because I keep forgetting about this, but it's really fast to just click recents, paste in the PID, and click go, and you're there. Let's talk about using the following list. So a lot of you are probably aware that you can, quote, follow a person. And you do that by clicking the following button at the top of any profile page. And then you are notified if changes are made to that person and they're added to your following list, which you get to by clicking following in the secondary menu. Well, on this list, you can click any one of these names, get a summary card, and navigate using the ways that we already just explained in the summary card. So suppose that you know somebody's not on your recents list, it's been too long, but you know you're following. Well, then you can very quickly click following, come to this page, and navigate using the person's entry on this page. If you've got a long following list, they've actually got another filter box up here on this page. So again, you can type all or part of a name here. As I recall, oh dear, I should have checked this before the webinar today. So maybe somebody can check this out for me. As I recall, when I tried to type a PID in here, it didn't recognize it. It only recognized names. So if somebody wants to check that out during the webinar and then maybe post it in the chat and let me know if that was correct information, that would be very helpful. My contributions is very similar in the way that you can use it to navigate. It's very similar to the following list. So my contributions is a list of every person that you've made a change to. Presumably, it's all the changes that you've made, or excuse me, all the changes that you've made since Family Tree started in 2012, if you've been using it that long. The reason I say presumably, okay, I went to the Help Center and looked up the Help Center article, and the Help Center article made it sound like you'd get all the changes since 2012 or all the things that you'd done since 2012. But I've never been able to verify that. I can only get back like a few years, and it really starts to bog down because there are so many changes. So given that we're in 2023, I'm guessing that if you have a lot of changes, they're probably there. It would just be really hard and long and time consuming to get to them. So with that little caveat, this is still a great way to navigate to people that you've been working on, especially if they've dropped off your recents list. But it's important to note that there is a difference between the recents list and this My Contributions list. And that is, we mentioned that recents shows you anyone you have viewed, whether or not you've changed them. My Contributions does not show everybody you've viewed, only people that you've made some change to on their page. So that's just something to be aware of if you want to use My Contributions to navigate. This one also has a search box at the top, or a filter box, where you can type all or part of a name to search. Oh, Gordon, thank you. My cousin Gordon just checked the PID. So I did speak truthfully before that you can search by name in the search box, but a PID will not filter by name. But Gordon says go to options, sort by PID, and that could be a helpful way of scrolling or finding that PID. So options is right here. And then apparently there's a way to sort by PID, Gordon, which I did not know. So thank you for sharing that with everybody. I appreciate that. Okay, the last thing I wanted to mention in navigating to a profile is just the good old find function. Probably a lot of us are familiar with that, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but basically on the secondary menu, just click find and you get this search form. You can find by name. You can either fill out this brief form right here, or you can click more options and it gives you additional search fields such as a father or a mother or a residence or something like that. And then also you can click find by ID and then just paste in a PID. But again, the recents can be probably as fast, and in some cases, maybe even a little bit faster, especially if you were here, find by name, and then you had to do an extra click to get find by ID. So the cool thing about this is that the way Family Tree and FamilySearch is designed, you've just got so many options for getting where you need to go. Okay, let's talk quickly about navigating on individual profiles. There's really not much to that, but it's worth mentioning. So at the top of any profile, you're going to see two options for navigating. They're actually right next to the following button. You can't really see it very well because the callout's over it, but they're your first two options when you get to a profile page. Again, View Tree does what you probably are expecting by now, which is it puts this guy in the root position in your tree view. View relationship, I love this feature. This is like one of my favorites because it shows you it like this map of all the relationships between you and this person as long as they're within 15 generations. If they're beyond 15, or if they're not proven in Family Tree, and by proven I just mean entered. So if they're not, if a relationship path doesn't exist in Family Tree, obviously it can't show you that relationship path. But as long as it does and it's within 15 generations, click this to see how you're related to this person. And it actually draws it out. And on that little map or path or whatever you want to call it, every person there is clickable. And so you can click them, see their summary card, and navigate that way. Then the other way that you can navigate on the person page is just by using the menu here at the top. So the About page, as many of you might know, click that and you'll go to a Pinterest style page that shows almost all the same information as on the detail page, just in a different format. It does have a few other little things there, like it has an entry from name dictionaries that will tell you the meaning of your family name and different little cool things like that. Sources, what you would expect, goes to the source tab, collaborate, memories, etc. The timeline is really cool. They actually took that away for a while on the new person page, but because of user feedback, they put it back. And on the timeline, you can just see a timeline of the events in this person's life. The timeline shows up on the left-hand side, and then you can choose to display a map on the right-hand side where those events have little markers to show you where they took place. Okay, the last part is to just talk about navigating using URLs. So Family Tree has, and FamilySearch has made a very logical structure to their URLs. I absolutely love it because it makes it really easy if you're a keyboard person to go quickly from one place to another without having to click menu options. So home is always just familysearch.org. Tree is familysearch.org/tree. Search, this is historical records. Just do search. Memories, as you would imagine, takes you to the gallery, your memory gallery. Activities, that one is a little bit of a mismatch. And I think it's probably because when they first started this a few years back, it was before the pandemic, if I remember right, when they added these activities, they called them discovery activities. And now the URL still says discovery, but the menu item now just says activities. Here's a shortcut tip for those of you who, again, like to do keyboard stuff. In Chrome and Firefox, and I suspect in other browsers, but I haven't verified it, Control D will pop the cursor up into the address bar. Why is that helpful? Well, here's a little, well, wait, sorry, I forgot I had this page in between. In a minute, I'm going to show why that's helpful. But I did want to show that the profile URLs also are very logically organized. So they just start out with familysearch.org/tree/person, then about, as you would guess, goes to the about page. And then you've of course got to put the PID here. Details goes to the details page. Sources, change log goes to the change log. And this is especially helpful. The time I use it most is when I'm troubleshooting bad merges. So it enables me to switch very quickly from one person's changelog to another just by typing in the URL. So we're going to show you in a minute how to do that. But the thing that I wanted to mention here, as far as, why those URLs, let me pop back here. Why would this even be useful? You might be thinking, I'm never going to remember to type all that, or I don't want to type all that, it's too long. Well, most browsers will remember pages that you've visited recently. And if your browser currently doesn't, it's probably got a setting that you could change to do that. Mine seems to do it by default. So again, I can't speak for all browsers, but this is in Chrome. And you notice I knew that I had visited this James Beskerby's page sometime in the last, say, 6 months or so, but he's dropped off my recents list. I visited too many other people. Well, I typed his name just up here in the address bar, and look what happened. Google or Chrome recognized that I had visited this page in the last however many months. I'm actually not sure how long it goes back. If I had to guess, it looks like maybe about 6 months. So it recognized that I'd visited it and it gave me the option. And so I just have to click on this URL right here and it takes me straight to that person. So often, if I just want to go to tree, I'll start typing familysearch.org. It will remember that I've been to /tree recently, and and then as soon as that appears, then I can actually either click on it, or if you see familysearch.org/tree up here as you type, then you can just hit enter and it will take you straight to that URL. Okay, I tried putting a GIF in here for the first time, folks. You can tell me if this is even helpful. I don't know if it is. I wanted to kind of show the action without actually having to go back to Family Tree. So I've started on Benjamin Blankensop's page. Notice that I erased his PID, pasted in another one, and hit enter, and it popped me to Edward Franks's page. So let's watch that again. I have to wait till it cycles. So there's Edward. So here we're starting. We erase Benjamin's PID. We paste in Edward's, hit enter, and it pops us over to Edward's page. So that's actually another quick way that you can just navigate between PIDs, between different, I should say navigate between different profiles. So I think we're just about to the end. This is the last bonus tip I wanted to give you, because if you want to use PID navigation, such as we just saw, where you just delete one PID, paste in another one, this is a helpful tip that just about from any place a PID is displayed, you can click it and it will put it on your clipboard. When you click it, you'll see a little message that says ID copied. Then you can go any place that you want to and paste that PID in. There is one minor exception to this, and this is on the old summary cards. If you click the PID, you will get a little pop-up that says copy PID, and you have to click that before it's copied. But that's not the old summary card is not being used in very many places in Family Tree anymore. So most of the time you're going to get this behavior. But I wanted to mention the other one just in case you encounter that. So this brings us to the end of our webinar today. Just by way of summary, we talked about the top level menu and also the secondary. So we've got that primary top level menu that you always see, then the secondary menu that depends on what you chose from the top level menu. We talked about navigating in tree views, navigating to profiles, navigating on profiles, and then finally navigating with URLs. So thank you for coming, you guys. And I noticed that we've got 3 questions or possibly comments in the Q&A. So I'm going to open those up. And so, oh my goodness, it's either Darryl or Daryl. Please remind me, because I have 2 friends that spell their name. One is D-A-R-Y-L, the other is D-A-R-R-Y-L. One says Daryl, one says Darryl. So thank you for posting, Daryl or Darryl. Thank you for posting the link to the Family History Guide. That is a fantastic resource. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to mark these questions as answered that we already answered. Oh, do you know what I just realized? Shoot, the Family History Guide link would not, it went into the Q&A, but I don't know if everybody can see the Q&A. So you know what, just in case not, I'm going to copy this link for the Family History Guide into the chat. And this is a great educational website, the Family History Guide. If you haven't visited there before, it's just got tons of resources and little projects and exercises that you can do. So it's a fantastic site. I see a question from Cindy in the chat. Okay, so Cindy said, why would you drag a person? So let's go over to Benjamin in Tree View. And Cindy, that's a great question. It's actually more of a, shoot, let me drag the for those of you who present on Zoom, my Zoom chat is in the way. Let me drag that out of the way. Pedigree view instead of landscape, because landscape is the one you can't drag. But Cindy, here's an example. So the way this landed up, I can't even see the top here. And so I just want to drag this into a better position where I can see it. So I'm just clicking, holding my left mouse button, clicking and holding my left mouse button, and that lets me drag it all over just like Google Maps. Another reason might be, shoot, this is not a good example, but let me go to another one that has more people on it. Another time you might want to drag is like here, I can't see the buttons to expand. Here I can see the buttons to expand ancestors, but I can't see the buttons to expand descendants. So I'm going to drag this over so that I can see, and I'm going to drag it even more because I want room that when I open this up, I'll be able to see the additional generations. So again, Cindy, thank you so much for asking that question. That was very helpful. So shoot, what was the other thing? You guys, there was something I said I would show. Oh, it was the changelog. So I'm going to minimize that, make this go full screen. Where the changelog is over on the right-hand side. So you scroll down to the section that says, latest changes. So you will see the 3 most recent changes here under latest changes. But if you click show all, then you see all the changes that were made on this person, either since they were created in Family Tree. So let's go down to the bottom for this guy. I'm going to hit Control End. And that should, he's actually, Control End doesn't always work if there are a lot of changes because they keep populating. So I'll keep scrolling down. Okay, when you get to the bottom and you see the footer and it stops, then you know you've reached the end. So you notice this guy was imported from new.familysearch.org. The reason you can tell that, or the old system, is because the date is in 2012 and the contributor is FamilySearch. If somebody had added this person, say in 2019, then you would scroll down to the bottom, the date would say 2019, and the contributor would also be listed. And notice that it does say changelog up in the address bar. I'm trying to move my cursor under it without making the cursor get in the way of it. So anyway, changelog will be in the URL when you're in the changelog. For whatever reason, FamilySearch did not put that at the top of the screen. So you don't see immediately that it's called the changelog, but you can see in the URL. And like it's just kind of become an informal name, I guess, for it. So, and it describes it pretty well. It's a list of all the changes. So I think we're to the end. I think we've covered all the questions that we had for today. So just thank you everybody so much for joining us. And Olivia, I'll turn the time back over to you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Kathryn. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you will join us for our next webinar, which is on May 18th with Julia Anderson. She will be giving a presentation entitled Getting Started with African American Research. A recording of this webinar will be made available next week. You can view that on our YouTube channel or on our website. If you have any comments or questions, you can always email us at fhl_webinars@byu.edu or follow Facebook and Twitter. Thank you and have a wonderful week.